This is a clip from Beyond Classified. You can access the entire episode now at rokfin.com/FKN+. With everything that's unfolded in the past few years, where do you stand with what's still happening, especially with some of the more dystopian agendas and the threats of global fallout and warfare?
Here's the thing. I tell people all the time on my channel and in my broadcasts, the medical industrial complex and the military industrial complex are competing in ways that they never have been able to before. And they both present the same solution to the globalist agenda. And that is, there's an emergency. We're going to need to take everything from you we can. And you're going to need to do what we say if you want to survive. So I've been saying, I have an ongoing bet with one of the guys who edits for me that he bet whether there would be another. I bet that there would be another pandemic by 2024, but that was before all the wars started to break out. And I said, look, they can't do both. They know that it's virtually impossible. They wouldn't even attempt it, and they don't need to do both. And that's why you're never going to hear them pushing the propaganda and the campaign for the invisible threat of the quote, starts with a V. I'm used to censoring because my shit is on YouTube. So certain words I won't say, but everyone can probably figure out exactly what I'm talking about.
Right.
They're not going to roll that out. They have no need to. They've got a war in Ukraine. They've got a war in Israel. They're telling people there's at least 9 American hostages as part of the assessment of most likely 200 hostages that Hamas apparently has taken. And so they've got, almost half of America, just like after 9/11, everyone's like, yeah, get them, kill them, no ceasefire, exterminate them, bloodthirsty. Just like Pavlov with the whistle. And it's amazing because a lot of the people who have a toe in the truther community, and have been on the right side of things like, the pandemic, are all of a sudden activated and bloodthirsty, and pro-war, and if that means less freedoms, they're all cool with it. But that is a Zionist go-to. They know that the Christians in America, are convinced that they're the quote chosen people, and that it's it's part of God's plan to defend them. And so they know how to activate that base. They do it really well. That's what we're seeing. Kind of, there's this division. It's weird. You have like some people who would be considered far left who are probably pro-Palestinian for the wrong reasons. And you have people like me who see the persecution and know of the decades of persecution and ethnic, not only genocide, but apartheid. And there's no better definition of what is happening. If it was happening anywhere else, it would be called out as apartheid. You're forcing everyone to live in this little tiny 2 million people because of their ethnicity. Hello, what's the definition of racism? And that's what I've really learned particularly over the last month, just how.
Well,
go ahead.
No, it's true. If you are not in support of Israel right now, you're a domestic terrorist,
anti-Semite,
and anti-Semite, of course.
Yeah.
That's the new catchphrase right now. And if you support Palestine, then you're automatically in support of Hamas.
Yeah.
Which to me, Hamas is like the same thing as Al Qaeda, as
ISIS, Al Qaeda.
ISIS, Al Qaeda, the same thing. It's funded by the Israeli and United States government to cause terror.
Exactly.
It's problem, reaction, solution at its best, right there.
That is exactly what it is, and and it's I guess. As you get more well versed in their tactics, the playbook just becomes, belligerently obvious. And so when something like this happens, those of us who know, like the day I read the headlines and it said, Hamas surprise attacks Israel. I started to belly. I was like, what? You know what I mean? You can't surprise attack Israel. You can't surprise attack the United States anymore. We have the technology to listen in on every conversation happening, whether that's on the phone or not. I mean, we could literally listen into a building that they're not on the phone. That's the kind of technology we have. And Israel has it too. So this notion that they could be surprised by Hamas, by a few $billion attack, is beyond laughable. It's fantasy. It's totally fantasy. And I just can't believe how many people, just like Pavlov with his whistle, you know, the moment they heard it, they're just off, you know. Even people like Jordan Peterson are like, go get him, Biddy, you know, knock him dead. Yeah, because Israel's the victim. You know, it's just, look, I feel bad for the Israeli people. Don't get me wrong. Don't misunderstand.
100%.
You know, they are caught up in the middle, and the Jewish people in general are being used by people who are not religious, who are Zionists, and in many ways anti-religion because of what their creed dictates that they treat other people. It's the antithesis of religion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've basically just hijacked the Jewish religion and are hiding behind it right now and using the Jewish people as a scapegoat to put forward their apocalyptic dystopian agendas and New World Order, basically.
That is it. If I could sum it up in 2 sentences, that's it right there. You just hit the nail on the head, man. But it's a crazy rabbit hole.
What have you been looking into as far as the dark history so that we can help the audience understand what's really happening here? Because there's so many that just blindly, patriotically believe what our government tells them and our media tells them about who to support and why to support them. So what have you been looking into about this?
So I had he's a civilian analyst, he's a researcher, he's a historian, he's a teacher, and he's I don't know if I can swear on here, but he's
of course
he's fucking incredible. He's meticulous. I mean, and if he's going to say something, it's because he's sourced it, he's vetted it, he's triple and quadruple checked it. And so when all this shit went down, you know, him and I are in touch. And anyway, but he lives in South Africa right now. He's moving, but his name is Gavin Nascimento. And you know, he counts some people among his followers like Joe Rogan, Billy Carson, you know, a lot of very respected people who, you know, have become mouthpieces for what is the truth that is not very convenient and they're trying to, you know, push aside. They follow this guy, and for good reason. So he was like, you know, he was like, "What's up, cousin?" He's like, "You want to talk about what's going on?" I was like, "Dude, please," because people have no idea. You know, they don't understand. They think that Israel has always been Israel. Palestine are the people who don't belong. I mean, there's massive propaganda confusion. And so I invited him on my podcast, and he came with it, dude. We spent 3 hours hashing it out. But you know, basically, he laid out the history of it for me, going back to when Britain, you know, had the territory as part of their tremendous conquest. They did so much good. You know, Palestine was part of their spoils. And, you know, right around 1912, I think it was, they estimated Palestine to be some of the most oil rich, you know, mineral resource rich land in the Middle East, you know, big deal. Now the Bank of England, the British Empire, was in debt to the Rothschilds because they gave them money for the war. They needed money for the wars. So you had a guy named Theodor Herzl, who was a secularist, who, I don't know what came over this dude and why he decided this was going to be his mission, but he wanted to find a land for the Jews. It's very, very strange. He kept a meticulous journal too, which has been published. And he was meeting with the British government. He was meeting with the Rothschilds, which is basically the British government anyway, through the Bank of England. And, you know, you can see he published his letters, and you can find them on the Rothschild archives. They have them. It's all there. It's not hiding, you know, and you can see how he went there and he said, look, you know, I really want to find a home. And he wrote, like, I'm meeting with the Rothschilds. They're so slippery. He was like, if I believed in God, I would ask for help.